Record. Hello, everybody. Welcome to session 1168, entitled What's New in Austrian and Czech Jewish Genealogy. My name is Alana Brock. I'm the session manager. Our speaker, Randy Schoenberg, is an attorney who has handled numerous cases involving looted art and the recovery of stolen property by the Nazis, including the successful return of 5 paintings by Gustav Klimt, as featured in the 2015 film Woman in Gold. Schoenberg graduated from Princeton University with a Bachelor of Arts in Math and a certificate in European Cultural Studies, and received his Juris Doctor degree from the University of Southern California. He served as the president of the Los Angeles Museum of the Holocaust from 2005 through 2015, during which time the museum constructed its award-winning new building in Pan Pacific Park. Today's session is 1 hour. He has 117 slides. I don't know how much time there will be for questions, but if you do have a question, please put it in the Q&A and I will publish it if it's general enough, and I will share all the Q&A with him. He has posted all the slides in the handouts tab on your screen. When I clicked on one of the links, it took me out of the session, so you may want to download that now and then look at it later. This session will be recorded, viewable on demand within 6 hours, and available for 60 days. Closed captioning is available. There's a little CC in the upper right corner if you'd like to take advantage of that. I'm going to turn off my mic and turn it over to you, Randy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alana. I hope this works. Welcome, everybody. I think I saw a lot of you a few hours ago at our Austria-Czech meeting, but there are, if I looked at the list, there's some new people here. And what we do every year at our conference, and hopefully next year also in Philadelphia, is I give a talk on what's new with Austrian and Czech Jewish genealogy. And it's usually 90% what isn't new. Just a review of what we have, which is the greatest wealth of resources of, I think, any area in Jewish genealogy, but sprinkled in with some things that are new. And there are some new developments, which we'll be talking about during this talk. So I'll dive right in. You guys can all chat. You can put questions in the Q&A. I can't really read things while I'm speaking, so Alana will monitor those a little bit and let me know if I'm going off track. You can also, as Alana said, download the handout, which is exactly what I'm presenting now, and you can follow along, and hopefully that'll help you. The hyperlinks will work if you click on them, and it'll take you to websites, I hope. Okay, so let's just dive right in because we have a lot to cover. As I said, we have a huge wealth of information. Here again is the link, but you can see that in the handout section. Okay, so I always start off talking about Jewish Gen. The Austria-Czech Research Division is based in Jewish Gen. It was started, I think, 1992 after a conference in Los Angeles, and we've been going strong ever since. We usually invite speakers to come to our conferences as guest speakers, and we hope to do the same next year in Philadelphia. If you haven't explored Jewish Gen, you really need to. It is the internet hub for Jewish genealogy, and we have been adding quite a lot of resources to Jewish Gen. So if you are able to search there, you probably will find something for your family. I recommend that people enter their surnames and towns in the Jewish Gen Family Finder. It's a good way of helping people find you, which is what you want, not just finding other people, but you want them to find you. And so please visit the Jewish Gen Family Finder. We have a web page that is hosted by Jewish Gen. It has not been updated in quite a long time, but you'll find a lot of resources there. It's jewishgen.org/Austria-Czech, and it includes the Beginner's Guide to Austrian Jewish Genealogy, which I prepared many years ago. And like I said, it hasn't been updated, but most of the information is still very useful and valid. So please go visit that. We also have Getting Started with Czech Jewish genealogy, an article that I wrote with Julius Mueller, also a long time ago. The information is still valid, I think, for the most part. And we'll be going through in this presentation a lot of the newer information that we have. But that's a great place to start, those two web pages, if you're just beginning to look at your roots in Austria or the Czech Republic, Bohemia, Moravia. Okay, we have a database, as I mentioned, on JewishGen with over 950,000 entries. Those are numbers from, I think, a year or two ago. I've been steadily updating and uploading new data sets to JewishGen this year, especially. They have a new onboarding procedure which allows me to sort of follow things through and make sure that they're done correctly. That has really given me an impetus to do a lot more and seek out and create data sets that we can now add to JewishGen. Some of the ones that are listed here are not yet live, but I hope they'll be coming up probably by Labor Day or so. And there are actually a couple more that I've recently added that are not even on this list of new databases. So please take a look there, because there's just a lot coming in on JewishGen, and you'll be able to search there. One more plug on JewishGen: if you are a paid member of JewishGen, you can search more than one field at a time, which I find is really, really useful. If you have a Schwartz that is married to a Pollock, good luck going through all the Schwartzes and all the Pollocks and finding that marriage. But if you can search both surnames at the same time, you have a better chance of finding those marriage records, and we have a lot of them on JewishGen. Also, if your family is from the larger Austro-Hungarian region, but not necessarily from Vienna, you still want to search on our database. The Vienna records will have your relatives, because there is not any Jewish family in the whole Austro-Hungarian Empire that didn't send someone off to Vienna, either because they want to become a doctor or a lawyer or for other business opportunities. So you will find a lot of information if you're a Galicianer or from Hungary or Slovakia or even parts of Romania and Ukraine. You will find information on your families in our database, and I really recommend that you search on JewishGen. And that's what I'm talking about here. We have all of the indexed records from the Vienna. It's called the Israelitische Kultusgemeinde, or IKG. That's the Vienna Jewish community. We have all of their records, and you can search them on JewishGen very easily. We have a new one of the new ones that I'm just highlighting of the about 10 or so new databases is we have an index to the Prague Census from 1792 to 1794. These were published in book form, but we didn't have them in a form that could be searchable, and now we do. So you can search that on JewishGen. You'll get a lot of information there. Martin Tompa put together a terrific database for all the vital records from his town of origin, which is Česká Lipa or Bermisch Lipa in Bohemia, and it was terrific. It had links to all of the records on a website called Badatelna, but as we'll talk about in a little bit, that website just died. And so unfortunately, all the hyperlinks, which we only had up for a few months, are now useless. But the data itself is still very useful, and you should be able to find the records. I'll teach you how to do that on the new website in a little bit. So I'm going quickly because I want to spend a lot of time actually on that section. JewishGen also has a discussion group. It's sort of new. We used to have our own separate email mailing list. Now we're folded into the general discussion group. You can go and explore that on JewishGen and send messages. You can limit the type of notifications that you get and which messages get sent to you. And you can also search our archive of almost 15,000 messages which are related to Austria-Czech research. So it's a great place to search for whether someone maybe 10, 15 years ago might have mentioned your surname or your town. Jober is rightly honored this year by the IAJGS and Nolan Altman. It is just a fabulous, fabulous project. They have amassed over 4 million cemetery records, and we've contributed quite a lot from our area. In Austria, we've contributed from 43 cemeteries, almost 160,000 burials with a small number of photos attached. And from the Czech areas, Bohemia, Moravia, and Silesia, we have 231 cemeteries with 113,000 burials. So we've contributed quite a bit to the Jober database. And again, we're adding to it all the time. I'll talk a little bit later about some of those efforts, but this is all available on JewishGen. So a little bit later is right now. So one of the ways we're getting cemetery data is thanks to the efforts of Tammuz and Fred Fatal, who comes to our conferences and gave a talk on demand. You can find his talk about Jewish settlements, I think in the 14th, 15th, and 16th century, where he talks about how Jews came to all these little villages in Bohemia. He loves going into the small towns and photographing all of the graves and then transcribing them into a database, and he contributes that to JewishGen. We support his work, JewishGen, through JewishGen, and donations that I and other people make to our Austria-Czech Cemetery Fund. We send that money on to Tammuz, and that supports Fred going and doing this work for us, preserving our Jewish heritage. It is so important because a lot of times the only record that we may have, the only information we may have about an individual in our family is the gravestone. Although they do last a long time, they don't last forever. They get faded there. You can see actually behind him, that red one there is sort of eaten away. So you want these recorded, send him to your town, have him photograph all the graves and index them for you. You will be very, very grateful for a long time. It's well worth the investment. The other person doing this without even asking for any payment or compensation is Ahab Heidler. He's an actor and is very interested in Jewish history, and he has single-handedly documented with photographs and then indexing hundreds of cemeteries in Bohemia, Moravia. He makes all his information available for free to JewishGen. He is a huge donor to the Jober project in our area in particular. He has his own website, hevra.com, Hevra with a W, and there you can find a whole host of information. You can search for each town, and through each town you can search for individuals by name. One little tip there, when you're looking on his website, you'll see also the graves that he wasn't able to index because he couldn't read them, or because they're only slightly legible, or maybe he didn't have time to do it. And so sometimes you can find information that is not yet indexed or transcribed by going through his website. So a little tip there. Here's an example of one that I thought was pretty cool. It's a Karpelis, which is ordinarily a Prague family, but he's dying in Volín in 1712, and has that unusual triangular-shaped gravestone. So just as an example. There's also, out of Brno in Moravia, an effort to document all of their Jewish cemeteries. Moravia, somewhat different than Bohemia, had a limit on the towns where Jews could live, so there are only about 50 of them, or 48, 49, 50. And so they're going through methodically and trying, also with Ahab Heidler and Fred Fatal, going through and transcribing and indexing all of the cemeteries in Moravia. And they have a terrific website with a lot of information about the ones that they have worked on and the ones that are still to come. But anyway, I recommend looking at that. Again, the links to all of these will be in the handout that you can download, so you can find all of these. So here's an example from that Brno website of what the data looks like. And we also have a lot of this on Jober, on JewishGen too. Okay, so in Prague, we've obtained copies of an index book for the Middle Cemetery. Everybody knows the famous old cemetery in Prague and the new cemetery with Franz Kafka, but there was a one that came in the middle, sort of between 1780 and 1900, and their index books. That cemetery itself was largely destroyed by the communists just before everything changed in the 1980s, and so these books sometimes are the only records we have of the graves there, and these are available from my Dropbox folder, and there's a URL there. Again, you'll also find versions of this on JewishGen. There's another index that we found in the Jewish Theological Seminary. They have actually several indices from that cemetery, and these again are available from that link to my Dropbox folder. Okay, a website that everybody should know about, that is second only to JewishGen, is genteam.at. It's created by Felix Gundacher for Austrian genealogy, and he had a real focus on Jewish genealogy, especially at the beginning, and has pretty much all the things that we also have on JewishGen, and maybe some that we don't even have. It's a great place to search for free. You just have to register on the website. Felix has done research for me on part of my family that had converted and had a civil marriage that I never would have found. So if you need a genealogist in Vienna, especially for non-Jewish records, I recommend him highly, and his website, which you can use for free. MyHeritage also now has GenTeam's Vienna community records. So those same records are available on JewishGen, on GenTeam, and now on MyHeritage. Now that they're on MyHeritage, you'll get matches if you build your tree there, or if you build your tree on Genie, because MyHeritage is the parent company of Genie, and you'll also get hints to records on MyHeritage on Genie. So if you've been working on Genie.com, which a lot of us are, you'll start getting hints now to Austrian or Viennese records that are on MyHeritage for your family. So that's sort of a bonus. There is a cemetery database that the Jewish community runs, which is useful if you want to find everybody in a single grave, which can be nice to discover maybe new relatives, because people were buried in the same grave, sometimes up to 6 people or so. So what you need to do is find the cemetery, the group number, the row number, and the grave number, and then search that in the lower left corner. But that they have their own website for that, and it's very useful for that type of research. A terrific Austrian website is run by the Austrian National Library, and it's called ANO, A-N-N-O. And there you can find almost any periodical that was ever created for the Austrian area, maybe even all of Austria-Hungary. They have all of the old newspapers. Everything has been subject to optical character recognition, so it's searchable. So you can search names. Now, if you search a common name or a town name, which happens also to be last name, it's going to give you too many results. But if you have something relatively unique to search, you can really find amazing things. There were, for example, you may not know that when you visited Vienna in the late 1800s, you had to sort of register, and they would publish in one of the newspapers who was visiting, who was staying in the hotels, and things like that. So you'll get all sorts of really interesting information if you can find it using ANO and their full text search. Very much recommend it. This is something that's not quite so functional anymore, but a guy named Peter Roll, who is Czech and lives in Canada, compiled 10,000 obituaries from the Neue Freie Presse in Vienna, and he named the files with all the names mentioned in the obituary. Now, this obituary collection for the Neue Freie Presse is also available on GenTeam and will hopefully soon be available on JewishGen because I've submitted that data. But what they don't have is they just list the name of the person who died and not all the people mentioned in the obituary. So if you want, you can go to this website that I had where I have all of his 10,000 notices collected. And if you view source, so you won't see it in your browser unless you go to view and view the sort of raw source on the page, you can search and find all the names because you'll see all the metadata. And you'll find all the names that are in each obituary. So if you're looking for the needle in a haystack, it might be there. Okay, moving on to Prague now again. We have the Prague conscription database, which is not a Jewish database. It's everybody basically who lived in Prague in the mid-19th century. And each family had a page. Has the usually the husband, wife, and kids with birth dates that are approximately correct. Sometimes it'll have information where they married, where they're from, etc. And you can search this relatively easily. They have a pretty good search capability on their webpage, and I recommend it. It's very, very useful if your family was in Prague. There's also the Prague Population Register, sort of the same thing in a different format. It's on a different website. You have to go to the main Municipal Archive website and click on Prague Population Register, and there you'll come up with these other pages that again have interesting information. For my family, it said the date they moved to Vienna, for example, which was very interesting. So recommend looking there also. In the archives, other archives in Moravia, they have a regional archive in Brno, which also has censuses for lots and lots of towns in Moravia, so you can find your family in the census there from their website. If you can find, you have to find the town and then the website. They have also on this website for Brno Digital Archive, they have population registers, so similar to what we have in Prague, but of course different format. So you can search there. In Pilsen, they also have a population register. You know, in Europe still today, when you move and live, if you live somewhere, you have to register with the police. You have to file a form. So of course they have all these forms going back 200 years, and now they're being digitized and indexed, and you can find these. So you can find where your family lived and what their records look like online. Okay, so going to Jewish records again. Professor Ivana Ebelova has led a team, this is already 10 years ago, that published books with the census, the famous census of Bohemia in 1793, and then an earlier one in 1783 also, which doesn't have a lot of surnames in it, but is from the same regions and structured the same way. Those are available from her website in PDF form, so you can actually get just the same thing that's in the book, except without the index. So that's been a little bit problematic. And so recently I went on freelancer.com and found someone and sent them the index. And now we have, I've just submitted these to JewishGen. So the index for these books will now be on JewishGen, hopefully in the next few weeks. And you'll be able to search much easier and find things in these PDFs. The page numbers might not match because the PDFs that she uploaded are different than the books that she published, but they're all searchable. And so if you find something on JewishGen, again, when this index is up in a few weeks, you'll be able to find something on JewishGen and then go to the right district and download the PDF and then search it and find that person, and you'll find lots of information in the census page there. My favorite one so far is that Joachim Feigl in 1793, who had 10, count them, 10 sons. What it must have been like at dinner time with that family. Okay, so there's a Prague census also from 1729. Julius Mueller took some photographs of that, and I have them available on my Dropbox folder. We don't yet have a searchable index for that, but I'm working on it, and hopefully we'll have that by the time of the conference next year. But this is if you want to go deep in Prague research. There's also, of course, the Prague Cemetery that everybody's seen pictures of. Daniel Polakovich has been working on a database of this for the Jewish Museum in Prague for maybe 20 years. We were hoping it would be done this year, but, you know, pandemic, things have been pushed off. So we can hope again that it'll be available next year at the Jewish Museum of Prague website, and then we'll have to see about maybe getting that onto Jober and JewishGen. But anyway, this is something that we've been waiting for a long time, and we're expecting it soon, I hope. There is an amazing archive, municipal archive collection in Prague that they had books that recorded all of the transactions involving Jews. So mortgage transactions and property transfers and inheritance issues were all put in one book for the Jews. And these books have been scanned for the most part. There are a few still missing. And they're available on their website of the Prague Municipal Archive. Now, it's not easy to read them and find things in them. Sometimes they're in Old Czech, sometimes in Old German. But when you do find things, it can be really remarkable to see something from the 1600s or even going into the 1500s in Prague and find out information about your family. The Jewish Museum in Prague is increasingly putting things online for us, which is really, really good. Here's the website that they have where they're putting up documents. They have, for example, the Mikulov records that are not. These are records that could be like things that are in the state archives, but they ended up in the Jewish Museum archives. And so, if you're looking for records in Mikulov, which was the most populous city in Moravia for Jews, you have to go to the Jewish Museum website and look at the records online there. They have a way you can browse all the people that they've tagged and all the different things that they've uploaded, and this can be useful for finding information. They have a big collection related to the Holocaust, and then a lot of older things as well. And so when they enter them, so the librarians and archivists enter them in, they enter in the names, and you can actually search through all the names and find things by name that way. They have recently made available a Pincus, sort of a community book for Holešov, which was a major town in Moravia. If you know Hebrew, these are very useful, these Pinkasim, and we're just starting to get a handle on these as a group, and we're looking for more people with better Hebrew skills who can read the Old Hebrew and help us access the information in these books. But they're increasingly becoming available. They also have, for the Old Jewish Cemetery, there's an old index that was made in the 1880s by Popper, and that is also online, and it's been very useful. I've been using it quite a lot, waiting for Jewish Museum to put its own index up. This is the good substitute so far. They also have these town inventories that I was able to get, and these are inventories of records for each town in Bohemia and Moravia. There was an old publication in Judaica Bohemiae, I think around 1970 or so, that had these, but it's sort of hard to find that volume even in the library. And you can find the source data on this website here for these town inventories. So if you're researching a particular town in Bohemia, Moravia, and want to know what items are in the Jewish Museum in Prague, this is the place to start. They also have at the bottom of their homepage that you land on for collections are recently cataloged items. So these are what they call Bestätigungsbücher, but if you click on them, they used to be called Attestenbücher. These are, as far as I can tell, sort of declarations that were made by the Jewish community regarding people maybe related to lawsuits or other disputes or property issues. Sometimes marriage issues, attesting that people are able to marry because they have the right license and things like that. They're indexed. I haven't used them very much yet, but they seem interesting, and they're recently added Jewish Museum. Here's something new that I was able to purchase from the Jewish Museum of Prague. They had scanned these but didn't want to make them available unless I paid them a little money, so I paid them some money, and now I have a collection of them, which I've put on my Dropbox folder. And these are the source for the book that was published by Alexander Putik a while ago on the 1748 census in Prague. When the Jews were expelled by Maria Theresa and came back, they all had to fill out one of these forms with their whole family. They continued using these forms, though, until the 1800s, when people obtained the right to have a family in Prague. And so they're very useful even beyond that 1748 time period, which has been published. The rest of them had not yet been available. Now they are available to us. So that's pretty nice. I find that if you know around when someone was married, let's say they're married in the 1780s or 1770s, where we don't have documentation, you can find that from the Marriage Permission Index. It's good to look around that time in these Fassion and see if there's a new family page for that family that's included, and that might have further information on the family. I mentioned these Marriage Permission Indexes. This is what they look like. They were on Badatelna. They've been taken off, and hopefully will be on Vadamekum soon. But this is, for example, one in my family where it has the Victor Nachud and Pessel Bunsel, and it gives the date. You can go from there into the state archives then in Prague and actually find that document from those permissions from that date and get more information. And this is an example of that for that very couple. And here, though, it shows the father's name, and so that's very useful, especially for the bride in this case. And here's what their Fassion looks like, right? So there's one from around that time that they had to fill out. Doesn't have too much information in it, but it is it does have the father's name of the bride, so that's useful, from 1760. Last time I talked about when I went in 2019 to Prague and photographed some of these marriage permissions that were in the municipal archive and also the state archive. I've indexed these, and the index is now also searchable on JewishGen. And if you need access to those, you can just ask me, and I can share them with you. This is just a picture of what the archives look like at the Jewish Museum. That's Thomas Krakora, who's one of the archivists there, showing me the Prague Berichtenbuch, which is, I think, not yet online. Here is an example of one of those municipal collections in the Prague Jewish Museum. As I mentioned, when I talked before about the catalog of items from the various Jewish communities, so they look something like this. This is one from Ostro in 1728, and it's a little tiny census of the town from 1728. And here's what it looks like at the Prague National Archives. When you visit that version of them, there in the foreground of that other picture is Lenka Matuskova, who just retired. She's spoken many times at our conferences and has been a great champion of ours in the archives, getting us access to records. And she gave me, when I was there, something called a Totenbeschau Zettel, which is a sort of a coroner's notice on the death of one of my ancestors. So they have all of these on file in the National Archives, the state archives in Prague. We're still missing a number of things in Prague, including the old cemetery tombstones and pictures of those. And there are 200 boxes of records apparently in the municipal archives that they wouldn't let us look at and have not opened yet. So there's still a lot of stuff that we are trying to get, and hopefully in the next few years we'll be getting access to those. Recently, I hired a researcher to scan Jewish records in the Liechtenstein princely collection, which is held in Vienna, not Liechtenstein. The people who owned what is now the country of Liechtenstein actually lived in Vienna. And so they have a big palace there which has their archives, and it turns out that they owned a lot of towns where Jews were, and they kept records from all of these towns, all of the transactions and the taxes, if a Jew needed to open a business, or if they needed a new rabbi, or they were electing new community elders. There's a document in this file. Imagine it was just a business office and they just kept a whole file on the Jews from X town. And so we've scanned these. I hired someone during the COVID period to go in and scan these, and I'm making them available to scholars. Some of them very hard to read, but obviously very interesting records from the 16 and 1700s for a number of different towns. And you can see the list there. And this is a wonderful scan of all the sort of Jewish elders signing a document with their own wax seal that we found in one of the files. Here's another example from Ostro where they're electing new elders, sort of new community officials. In Vienna, back in Vienna now, this is a picture from 2019 where I ran into MyHeritage's Daniel Horowitz and Daniela Aylon, sorry, mangled your name, and from Israel, and they were researching her family, and I was researching mine, and we just happened to meet in the city archives in Vienna, which is in something called the Gasometer, these big giant towers that were outside of Vienna, and that's where they have the archive. And that's what I was looking for at that time, was this tax forms index that was made from 1782 of Prague tax forms for Jews, and we've indexed these now and put them on Jewish Gen. Yehuda Rubin has been really helping me a lot in indexing some of these smaller collections, so that you can find on Jewish Gen. There's not indexed by me this Kartei der Fremden, which is really useful if you're searching family in Vienna. It's foreigners who lived in Vienna, and everybody, of course, had to fill out a form, and so you can find your family that way if they moved to Vienna and find out information on them. And here's the one that actually says the correct place that they were from, which is the Schoenbergs, at least from Hungary, from Széchenyi. Here's an old website that I haven't visited recently, where it has you have to pay for access, and it has a whole bunch of really old archival records from various communities in Bohemia, Moravia, and Silesia. Sorry, with the phone in the background, it'll end soon, I hope. If you're looking for old books, I've collected a lot of them. Many of them are available from this Frankfurt collection, and I've downloaded and put a lot of them on my website at hugogold.com. You can search them there. Some of them, thanks to Logan Kleinwax and his genealogy indexer, because he did an optical character recognition and made them searchable. So if you're looking for another way to search some of these old books, you can go look on hugogold.com, and you can look at also at a more extensive collection that isn't yet searchable like that at that tiny URL on my Dropbox folder. So to give you an idea of what you can find there, searching, these are the Viennese Jewish estate records, which are published by Rabbi Taglicht. So that's one of the books, and so if you search a name up, it pops, and you can read the book basically online and search it. Also, the famous books on Bohemia and Moravia by Hugo Gold are searchable and downloadable that way. These are tremendous resources for all of us, and thank goodness they did them in the late 1920s and early 1930s. Otherwise, we would probably still be starting from square one. Okay, so the big news this year, where are we at? 250. Good. Okay, we're in good time. Is that Badatelna, which has been the source for all of our Bohemian and Moravian records, is down. It's dead. It's gone, apparently, and everything is going to be migrated over to this new website called Vadamekum. I talked about it at our annual meeting a couple hours ago and demonstrated how that works. I'm going to do it sort of quickly by slides here, and if we have time at the end, I can also do another demonstration. You may want to access either this or the other meeting when that becomes available on the website for downloading or for viewing on demand, and watch how I go through it, because it's going to take all of us a little bit of time to get up to speed on using this new website. It's right now pretty much all in Czech. It's confusing, but it has some good parts to it, and I think it's worthwhile investing the time and learning how to use this, because this is how it's going from here on out. So how do I start? I go to this Vadamekum website. You can see it there, vadamekum.nacr.cz. And in UVAD is really the introduction, not the search. Wrong about that. But if you go to that sort of top white bar and you type in HBM and return, you just do a carriage return, it'll search and it'll find the two record collections that we're looking for. And that's because they've been indexed by the state archives for whatever reason under the letters HBM and HBMA. So you'll find those two there. When you see the two results, you click on one of the green buttons. That'll take you to the two different sources we have. They're the Jewish records and then what they call the control records, which were done by the Catholic parishes, sort of duplicate records, but sometimes they fill in the gaps. When there's a book missing here, you might find it there. So you need to look in both places, and you'll get, you click on that green button, and then the next page, you're going to click on, in the middle there, on something that says Listovani, which is apparently scrolling, and it'll give you a scrollable list of the towns. So it looks like this. When you click on, again, when you go back here and you click on the green button, and then you'll get to a page that looks like this, and you're going to click on that Listovani, and then you'll get a page that on the right side will have an ability to scroll through all the towns. So see there, you see it there on the right side. I pointed to it in red, and that is how you're going to find your towns. And then you click, of course, on the town that you're looking for, and then it'll open up on the left, and you'll have a list of the books for that town. And when you click on the paperclip around there, up pops this little picture, and you click on that picture frame, and then there you are at the screen where you can actually see the book and scroll through the pages. There is a way to get permalink, and I've identified that on this slide. It's sort of at the top there with that little chain link. So I realize this is going by way too fast, but again, download the handout, and you can study this at your leisure in detail, or you can go back when this presentation or my earlier Austria-Czech presentation, our SIG meeting or our research division meeting, when that becomes live on demand, you can go and listen to that and stop it and follow through. It's going to take us time to get used to this. Don't get frustrated. Give it a try. It does work. And so here again is what it looks like. The control registers. You click on that Listovani, you get a list of the books. Oh, and again, to remind people, it used to be we had N, O, and Z. So N is for births, O is for marriages, and Z is for deaths. So that's how you're going to find the books that you know from Badatelna now on Vadamekum. And good luck. We hope the Familienten records and marriage permissions are going to be available soon. Julius Mueller is working very hard every day trying to get the people at the state archives to get that done, and we'll let everybody know through every available avenue when that becomes available. These are what the Familianten books look like, how they used to look on Bagatelna, and hopefully we'll get them again. And these are these marriage permissions that I talked about. They're not just for Prague, they're all for all of Bohemia, and very, very useful. They tie together, in theory at least, to records that are in the state archives where you can find out more information about a particular couple. So keep that in mind if you're digging deep. A few more resources that we have. Here's the Opava archives. You can select Matriki and search for Jew, Žide, and you'll come up with a whole bunch of funny things, including the fact that sometimes the Jewish records were in the back of church records. So here's actually for my family, living in a little tiny village called Branki, and the back page of a long book, 300 pages, has just 2 pages in the back, lists these 2 Jewish families, including mine there on the left. So sometimes if you can't find things, you'll find them there. On our Jewish Gen Austria-Czech webpage, there's something called the Gundaker list, made by Felix Gundaker, that gives a list of where all the books are for these different archives, as well as the ones in the state archives. So if you're looking for that. There's the state regional archives in Trebon. They also have lots of cool stuff, like this book of inheritances and testaments from Myslkovich. So anyway, you can find things at all of these little regional archives. They're all starting to get their websites up and uploading things. So it's great for us, but we really have to search a lot of different places. Okay, Family Search. Hello there, Family Search. So Family Search is another big website that collects all sorts of data, including a lot of data that we can use, including the books for the Vienna Jewish registers. They are pretty much the same things that are indexed on Jewish Gen or Gen Team or MyHeritage, and you can find them here. Not all of the books are on Family Search because of data privacy issues. I think actually in terms of the index, the one on Jewish Gen probably goes the deepest. So you probably want to search on Jewish Gen if you're looking for recent things, but you won't find the records for those on Family Search, unfortunately. You'd have to contact the Jewish community in Vienna for that. But anyway, this is a great place to look. And here's an example of these terrific Vienna records that we have access to now. Thank goodness. The Mormons copied them and made them available for free to us. Here is the death register for Vienna, also online, Family Search. The Family Search has the Czech census available, almost 5 million images. These are not Jewish records, they're just census records, and you need to dig down and see whether the ones for your particular community are available, and if they are, for what time period, and if you're lucky, you'll find your family. It looks like this. So here's the district list, and then you have to click on the district and find the town, that type of thing, and you get to a family page. Pretty nice. Also on Family Search, we have these Grundbuchblätter, which are sort of property type, registration type records for Bohemia, Moravia, and Silesia. They look like this. Again, this is the type of thing where you have to register. It's sort of like a property register, but sometimes also can be family registers. So they describe the people in the property. Very nice. Here's a new website that Alex Kalzareth shared with me yesterday called Portafontium. I looked at it, and if you search Yiddish, there it has things from Germany and Bohemia, Moravia, Silesia area, and they have some random, very nice things, like a Jewish contract book from Slatina, or a Familiant book from Becharov, something like that. So anyway, look there if you can't find it anywhere else. Julius Mueller, who spoke a little bit at our annual meeting, is the leading genealogist in the Bohemia Moravia region, and he has his own website, which you should go visit, toledot.org. He's gone through and listed the Familianten names for every town. We have his index now, I think, on Jewish Gen, and We're going to be getting a more detailed index, I think, from Georg Gaugusch in the near future. So keep looking on JewishGen for that type of information. We have index of Jewish houses on Shafa, for example, on his website. One of the things I go back to his website for is this map, this old map of the districts, because they've all changed since the 19th century. So when you're looking at records and it says what district is, and the record is from 1850, you have to sort of guess where that is now. So what I do is I look at a current map and I look at Julius's map and I try to guess which book it might be in. This will be really good if you're going back and using those census records from 1793 and you need to know which district your family was in, so you know which book to look in. Alex Kalsworth has also made a wonderful tool. He did a talk at this year's conference also on this, and it's a mapping tool where he shows all of the Czech records that are available. He refers to the old Badatelna fonds, but now it's all on Badamekum. It's the same type of thing, and you'll be able to find records. If you have someone, for example, who lived in a small village that was outside of a Jewish community, sometimes they move to Vienna and they list their small village, but there's no Jewish community in that village. You need to use Alex's tool to find where the village is and then look in the surrounding area for the Jewish community that had the record books. Sometimes that's 10, 15, 20 miles away. And if you look in those areas, then you may find a record of the birth, marriage, or death in that little tiny village. So it's a really great resource. Here's also something new that probably you all don't know about. It's the Simon Wiesenthal Genealogy Geolocation Initiative that's being run by Simon Wiesenthal's granddaughter, Racheli Kreisberg, and she's really good with computers. She has a partner that she's been working on with this, and it is a mapping program where they're going through various locations, focusing on Galicia, where they have access to records, and then I gave her access to Vienna records that have addresses, and you can search by house and figure out all the people who are living in that house according to the records that we've uploaded. And for Vienna, I know people were asking about Vienna at the last session. For Vienna, this could be a real boon. I haven't had a chance to really use it too much yet, but if you go there and search for your family, you find search a family name, you find where people in that family may have lived, and you can click and then see who else might have been living in the building. Oftentimes, they're closely related too. So check this out, this Swiggy, and it's a new thing, and they're looking also for new data sets to upload. So if you have access to a data set that has addresses on it, they can use historical addresses, any type of address program, they can work with that and do this for your town as well. So might be something you want to all follow up with. Arcanum is another website that I heard about at the conference this year from Vivian Khan in the Hungary Research Division. It's pretty cool, actually. You can drill down and find cadastral maps or other maps for all sorts of towns in the Austro-Hungarian region using this website. I was exploring it yesterday, and it's pretty neat. You know, you type in a little town, and you can, on the right, you can select which map you want, and you'll find the map of that village from some military map in the 1820s or in the 1870s or even in the 1700s. Check it out. Definitely worth doing. Here's an example for Holešov, which you mentioned before. I like this one because on the left it says Judenstadt. So they had a whole sort of Jewish town on the side of Holešov which you can see very well from this map. This is not so new, but I haven't checked on it recently, but they found a bunch of really old maps that they have that have information about Jewish residents, including sort of a list of Jewish residents on some of them. So this is really interesting to look at. It's from a very early time period. They have some later maps on there as well. But if you're looking for maps of your ancestral towns, this is another place to check it. Here's a website that we all use a lot. It's on Wikipedia, and it lists the German names for Czech towns. And so you really need this to do any research in Bohemia and Moravia, because in all the records, it'll be the towns listed in German, but today it has a Czech name, and usually it's completely different and unrelated. For many years, I didn't even know where to look for my family records because of that issue. Who knew that Marisch Neustadt is really Ushov, something like that. So, but you'll find all of those here on this Wikipedia page. So use that to find the current Czech names. Here's also the Moravian Library in Brno, which is sort of like Anno. You can search old periodicals. Holocaust.cz. I heard there was a shakeup there. I really haven't heard too much about it. I don't know the full story, but it's a terrific sort of website consortium of different groups, Jewish Museum of Prague and several others that have been scanning and putting information on victims of Eisenstadt. But I think there's some change there, and so I'm not quite sure what the future of that project is at the moment. But it's a great resource for all of those who unfortunately have family that went to Theresienstadt, like my great-grandfather. So there's this Terezin inmate. It's a different website that has to do with people that were deported to Lodz or Minsk ghetto, so you can search there. Not everybody went from Terezin to Auschwitz. Some people went a different way. So Genie is something that I always talk about because really it's been an incredible resource and tool for those of us researching in our area. We are all building out trees on Genie, and we have project pages for every single community. And if you are from our area, Bohemia, Moravia, and Austria, you will find some of your family on Genie already done for you. And the more people who join in that effort, the better it gets. So I encourage you all to look at this website, build your tree on Genie, and enjoy the benefits of that. Here's an example. I have a project on Prague where I've listed over 300 families at the bottom of a page like this, and you can access the families much easier that way. It's just a great way of organizing the information from the family trees. We also have a Theresienstadt project, which now is up to 40,000 prisoners. It was at 35,000. I kept the same slide last year. So we've been going up quite a bit this year, and we're not there yet at 150,000, but we're moving forward, and the more people add to this project, the more profiles get added, the better it is for everybody. I'm also talking about a way of exporting profiles from a Genie project and importing that to that data to JewishGen. There's a way to do that now, so we're going to be looking at that in the next few weeks. Trying to finish up. Sorry, this is a website for the Austrian Jewish Museum in Eisenstadt that Johannes Reiss, who has come to our conference before, has. If you're interested in the Burgenland, which we haven't talked about much, this is the place to go. Everything about the Burgenland starts with Eisenstadt and this website. National Library of Israel. We've been collecting resources, scanning resources from the National Library and obtaining those and trying to index them. We have them available on my Dropbox folder. And there's also a website where you can search Hebrew manuscripts now. So if you search there for Czech or Austria, you'll find things related to those areas, and some of them are very interesting. I have the Vienna Währinger Friedhof, which is sort of the older cemetery in Vienna, and the transcription of the grave pages by Pinkas Heinrich. Those are available on my Dropbox folder. So if someone died in Vienna before 1880 time period, you want to look at this. Very useful. Georg Galgush is finishing up the 3rd volume. Hopefully it'll be out in the next year or so, of his prominent Jewish families. He is the most incredible researcher and genealogist that I know, period. Jewish, non-Jewish, doesn't matter. His work is the best I've ever seen, and we're very lucky that he's concentrating on our community. I'm still making my way through his 2nd volume and trying to add the information on Genie. If anybody else wants to help with that, I could certainly use it. I think I'm stuck in the Pollux right now. And then finally, Lenka had this website that she developed in the last year, Lenka Matuskova, for post-war death declarations for people who came out of Theresienstadt and then had to file declarations about their family or people who escaped and needed to have someone declared dead. These have all been indexed by Lenka and are available from her website at the State Archives. Please join our Facebook group on Czech Jewish genealogy. Ray Minkus started this up, and it's been a terrific way to discuss issues particular to our group, and you'll get a lot of information and be able to ask really good questions and get smart answers. There's also a Czech Jewish Cemetery Facebook group for people who like to take pretty pictures of Czech cemeteries, but Achab Heidler also features on that sometimes, so it's worth joining. There's a Czech genealogy Facebook group for Czech speakers or people who don't speak Czech who can get help with Czech records. That is very useful. Family Tree DNA, if you've taken your DNA, join one of our projects on Jewish families of Bohemia or Moravia or Prague so that we can make some more advances maybe that way. Sorry, I'm going quickly. I think this is the last section. This is not technically Austria-Czech, but it's close enough in Pressburg or Bratislava. There was a discovery this year of the tombstones that we thought were lost and destroyed by the government when they took out the old cemetery in Pressburg. It turns out that's what it used to look like. It turns out they were all buried near the new cemetery, and they are digging them out. They found about 350 of these, and they're going to be cataloging them. On Jewish Gen, we had a whole fundraising effort to support this, and we'll be getting the data from those. Obviously, there are a lot of ties to families in Vienna from Pressburg. It's only an hour away. And here's some there. And then we are done. Yay. I finished on time.
You did. Thank you so much. I just want to point out that the handouts are here. You can download them to your own computer or preview them, but I would suggest downloading them. They have everything that we just saw. So, Randy, that was fabulous. I would encourage people to evaluate the session, although I have had trouble figuring out how to do that. There were two questions.
Okay, we could turn off the slides somehow. I'm not sure how to do that.
Let's see.
But anyway, ask the questions.
Okay. The one that seems most general is to talk about how you could hire a researcher in the places you talked about.
Right. So really, genealogy is all local. So it depends on where you're looking. In Vienna, there are a few people that I could recommend. Wolf-Erich Eckstein does terrific work in Vienna, in the Jewish cemetery especially, because he was in charge of the whole Vienna Records Bureau for the Jewish community. So he's very familiar with everything and knows where everybody is. As I mentioned, Felix Gundacher does non-Jewish, but a lot of Jews converted, so he's very good for those. In the Czech areas, I really recommend Julius Mueller, but there are a lot of people in that area. It just depends on where in particular you're researching. So if someone wants to write to me, please do that, and I can refer you on to someone. Listen, I'm pretty good at this. I've hired experts. I wrote a whole blog on it. You can look at my blog if you want, schernblog.com. And sometimes you need someone on the ground who really knows what they're doing to find that needle in the haystack for you, and from there you can go on. So I'm all in favor of using experts when you need them, and sometimes you do. So please write to me, and I can help you with that.
Thank you. Deborah, there was a question that you can, I think, just take up directly with Randy. And I thank you again. It was fabulous. And I'll look forward to playing around with that new website.
There's a lot of new things. Yes, Alana, we hadn't met before today, but I was able to navigate the new website and find her step grandfather's birth record in Brno. So it is doable. You can do it. I
saw it with my own eyes. And by the way, my mother-in-law is a Pollock.
2 days ago, I wouldn't have been able to do it, but today I can do it. So you can.
Right. Well, I'm kicking you all out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and bye, and see you in Philadelphia next year.
Yes, I look forward to that. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Okay.
All right, you did it.
I mean,
Thank you. I think